Look at this book. It's Jordan J. Belford's autobiography. I think I want to read an excerpt.
All too frequently, it seemed that as a kid, I, Jordan J. Belford, was mistaken for a girl. Why? Because to the observations of an individual well versed in the commodity of social standards, the difference between a girl and a boy is striking. When I had no expectations set for my identification, I soon found out that my previous natural tendencies were not only a mistake that discriminated or alienated me from my own gender, but a laughingstock and an insecurity that would exist for the rest of my life. To think I was safe from any stereotype was merely the ignorance of a premature child. A child who knows the effect and the stimulus in stereotyping, but can't put the feelings to words. As a kid, making a mistake against my gender was like being sent to my own room with no dinner and no perceivable grounds for behind the unrelenting punishment. It was one thing to be aware of something that oppressed me and not be able to do anything about it, but to know and feel something literally pressuring my very existence without being able to put it to words is the struggle of my childlike, ignorant self, deep-seated within me and every other individual with the capacity to feel emotions. To say that gender stereotypes do not influence a life-changing decision would be a lie and a malicious mistake. From where does one learn to allow their decisions to be affected by a stereotype? To understand this, one must realize that stereotypes come from the root of basic social interactions. So it was there, on the playgrounds, baseball fields, soccer fields, schoolyards, daycare, even church, from t-ball to Sunday school, instances of children stereotyping every aspect of each other's personality were self-evident. I never asked why I had to go to t-ball rather than ballet, or play with dump trucks rather than dolls. I just knew I should because I felt a looming threat. This threat was a subconscious threat that scrutinized my future masculinity. From age 5 to 10, I was a competitive gymnast, not a t-ball player. I gave off a certain essence of femininity with my long hair and absence of stature compared to the other boys. There were several instances in which the idea of conforming to my gender was influenced by my own life choices when I was a kid, whether I was aware of it or not. In the age of change, that subconscious threat which I experienced as a child became increasingly apparent. I chose to quit gymnastics because I felt it wasn't a sport for boys. In the following months, I would be ignorant to the influence of gender stereotypes on my pubescent developing mind. As I grew, my parents told each other I ate more because I was a growing teenage boy. Sure, it was natural, but that was only half the complete reason. I told myself to eat more because I wanted to build muscle, and build muscle quickly, because to do so was natural for a guy. I cut my hair because I told myself it was not a good look for me anymore. Then I tried out for different sports as I saw fit. This secret pressure to change my lifestyle so rapidly was from my own self-consciousness. It was the real reason behind those uncomfortable and awkward feelings that came with those changes. I denied any fact of this because doing so would indicate that I'm not ready for adulthood, whether I was a male or a female. Teenagers were meant to grow up in such a fashion that they deny their inner personality and even force themselves to forget about it in order to become a man or a woman. Adulthood was the point in my life which was placed far too high on my list of things to excitedly anticipate. Thus the phrase, "don't grow up too fast." As a young child, growing up meant scratching a tick in the doorway every month to have a visual aid to how close I was to adulthood. Although growing up was necessary to life, why does an individual have to conform to its antecedents? As an adult, I got a job. A true place marker on the path to manhood. That job was the very last visual aid stapled to that doorway, like a notice, evicting any essence of a childlike conviction. I told myself to leave that door as a man, and from that door I did not run, or skip, nor color on the walls with a crayon. I simply put that door behind me, in the past. Even as a teenager, it was hard to completely recall the feeling of pure excitement when the tick in the doorway was an inch or two higher than last year. As a middle-aged man, excited convictions are different now. Mostly because those convictions are already decided for me. Therefore, my life has led me here. I am a man, with a man's honest job, working as a mechanic.
Wow, Jordan J. Belford's autobiography is so interesting. It has me more interested about gender norms.
A girl, when born, is dressed in pink and yellow and light green, her clothes embroidered with flowers and bees or sparkles. She grows up around boys that are dressed in blues and reds, yet never wonders why her male counterparts rarely wear the same colors as she does. But why should they? They play with dolls and have tea parties while boys play with action figures and dare each other to do stupid things just to see who has more balls. When's the last time you saw a boy playing with a doll or having a tea party with a female friend? I wouldn't be surprised with your answer. Gender norms are invisible forces that envelop society and covertly dictate what we do and wear and how we act and behave. Most people don't comprehend the presence of gender norms until they've already acted in favor of them without even realizing. And what's worse is that children are born and molded by these arbitrary expectations that communities, older generations, and even the media so vividly portray. It's nearly impossible to escape their influence. What is the basis of these rules that have become commonplace, not only in our country, but around the world? Men and women have since the beginning of time been equally responsible in raising families in progression. Women have borne the children and cared for them, while men have provided for the family by hunting and gathering. Without the woman, there would be no kin, and without the man, there would be no family. So how from this have we resorted to fixing these roles and setting them in stone? Our society has progressed, and we should be able to take advantage of our ability to think for ourselves rather than fit into roles that we've assigned. We are no longer hunters and gatherers, and we need to stop acting like it. Some may argue that there are no standards to fight, that we are not actually being pressured to fit into our roles. If that were the case, why don't you come to school in pajamas every day? Why must you wear the high Nike socks, the Vans shoes, the JanSport backpack, the baseball hat of the team you don't even like? I find it interesting that the people who argue this are often the same ones who fall into the trap the most. This is not a problem that changes overnight. We will not wake up one morning free from the burden of fitting into the stereotypes. It is a gradual change that we will still need to consciously fight against every time it presents itself. Does a boy not want to play with the dolls because he wouldn't have fun with them, or because he's afraid of the looks he'll get from his friends that see him doing it? Does a girl no longer want to pursue her dream of being a mechanic because she isn't interested in it anymore, or because she isn't on a girl's job and requires a tough and gritty man to do it? A child isn't born with these standards in mind. A child cannot discriminate between a girl toy and a boy toy. It is the upbringing of the infant that leads him or her to these conclusions. Let us not curse the next generation. Instead, we should let them decide what shows they want to watch and how they want to act. We need to keep an open mind, as there are few sins greater than preventing an individual from reaching his or her full potential. We are close to overturning these standards and have made great progress in the last century, but we still have work to be done. To those of you who cry for a leader to emerge, to lead everyone out of the shadows and into the light, stop waiting. Leaders are not born, they are created. Every person has the opportunity to stand up for him or herself to fight for this revolution. Frederick Douglass stopped waiting. Martin Luther King stopped waiting. Helen Keller, Mahatma Gandhi, Thomas Jefferson, Susan B. Anthony. These great revolutionaries did not wait for others and didn't do it alone. It was with the great power of the people that led them to their goal. An idea so powerful that it was once a seed until it grew roots and shattered the pot that constrained it. Do not let the pot suppress you in your individuality. Do not let it prevent you from becoming something great, from becoming who you are, from embracing what you love. Do not let the gardeners build higher and stronger walls to stop your roots and force you to wither and die. Be more than that. Fight back. Let your roots grow and puncture the boundaries that have been so insidiously set for you. Declare this as the last day you let it have control.
This speech was so inspiring. It's inspired me to declare freedom from gender norms. During the span of human existence, it has become necessary for the people to rid themselves of the gender standards set by society, and to provide a safe environment for people to behave in any way that they feel necessary, without feeling the need to conform to gender norms. It is both necessary and prudent to inform people why we feel this way. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, that they are endowed by the interconnected web of human being with certain inviolable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and self-expression. To obtain these rights, it is necessary for society to recognize that there is no one right way to be a woman or to be a man, that any time a society fails to acknowledge this, it is the right of the people to agitate the transformation of society. We, as a nation, have been burdened far too long to continue along this path that leads only backwards. How can we move forward if we do not address the most troubling obstacle in our path? We hold the view that the most significant obstacle is the censure of people that do not conform to gender stereotypes. Every time a parent or other family member calls a boy a sissy because he does not like sports, not only has his self-esteem taken a blow, but he is pressured to change into something he isn't comfortable with. Every time a girl is scolded for being too aggressive, she is conditioned to become submissive and unwilling to stand for her own beliefs. Every time a mother is criticized for not being entirely responsible for the children, she is coerced to give up her pursuits. How can we live harmoniously if these insidious forces threaten our hopes and aspirations? To prove this, consider the following. Society has constrained women and men to comply with an imaginary stereotype specific to their gender. It has told women to act in a submissive manner, inferior to their male counterparts. It has forced women to receive a lower wage for the same work. It has denied women the right to walk city streets without getting harassed. It has forced women to choose between being a mother or furthering their career path. It has forbidden women from taking part in activities classified as masculine. It has confined men to aggressive behavior, to never shed a tear in public, to be the sole breadwinner of the family, to shun anything soft and feminine, and to conform to an unrealistic ideal of masculinity. These standards have taken away everyone's freedom of self-expression. They have created a harmful environment that constrains the potential of unique human development. We have fought against these standards by not complying with them, and we are ultimately looked down upon for it. We have attempted to live by them, but it is evident that they restrict collaboration, development, and everything that makes us unique as human beings. Gender standards that constrain the potential of humans are unnecessary in a society that encourages humans to reach the greatest level of achievement. We have tried to let time settle it out, but time is not on our side. There is no method in which we can conform to these standards or stray away from them without finding ourselves in another predicament. The last and only necessary course of action it leaves us with is to break the bonds that leave us connected to these standards. Accordingly, we, the caucus of unique individuals, have united to declare freedom from the gendered standards that chain us down. We appeal to all human beings who have felt the detrimental effects of gendered standards on our society. Consequently, our world needs to be free and liberated. From this day forth, we will gradually separate this society from gendered standards by educating our future generations that both sexes are free to express themselves however they want. Parents and figures of authority will also be restricted from producing crude remarks, and they will assure the children there is nothing wrong regarding their actions and outward appearances. Being free from these gendered standards, humans will have the power to reach their full potential without being threatened by stereotypes in their future endeavors. I'm gonna go ask my friend if he wants to do something creative. What's up, chicken nugget?
Yo, what's good, my home slice? What's cracking?
You wanna run a rap about gender norms?
Yeah, dude, I'm cool with
Hold
that.
up, let me call my producer.
Oh,
Hello.
dang.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
Straight out of norms, crazy radical revolution for the people that are fighting persecution. When I'm called off, it's a standoff against the controlling standard that we brush off. Act like a boy, cause that's what you should be. But what's that if that isn't really me? Don't cry now, be a man now. Fit these expectations that have been brought down. The ones who tell men put the dolls on the shelves are the ones telling men to just be themselves. Girls should wear makeup, lest their face break up. And shouldn't this be a call for all of us to wake up? Teachers, secretaries, librarians, receptionists, nurses, birds, housekeepers, and perfectionists. Sports, cars, doctors, video games, apathetic, lazy, messy, and all the same. But what about the girl who strives to be a scientist, or the guy who loves working as a cosmetologist? Why should I care if that doesn't affect me? Sure as hell does, as if you open up your eyes and say we dress to impress and fit in every day, dressed like a certain gender assigned way. If it didn't affect you or the people you saw, you'd be sitting at home eating a pound of bear claw. But because you're a girl and you need to be thin, you'll suck in your stomach or tuck in your chin. We're not born with the instinct to hate, not gays, not lesbians, not bi, not straight. Discriminate the different and label in an instant, engraved in the minds of the young and the innocent. One way to fight it is to not live by it. It's your story and you're the one who writes it. Our gender is only part of who we are. Don't let it define you in your life thus far. We fall to these stereotypes that we have created, the ones dictated by a society that is hated. Blaming the society just doesn't make sense. As a matter of fact, it makes us seem quite dense. For we all make up the great big society. It's hypocritical to incriminate and avoid notoriety. Change the world, don't let the world change you. Stand up for what's right and start a debut. So let's declare ourselves the last generation to have shamefully accepted individual damnation.